A Hong Kong chief executive hopeful John Lee has formally thrown his hat into the ring for the city's top job. He will stand in next month's election after securing 786 nominations. Now, that means he already has the backing of more than half of the voters in the election committee, tasked with picking Hong Kong's next leader. But analysts say Mr. Lee must now make clear his policy plans to inspire confidence. Deborah Wong reports.
Within a week of his resignation as Chief Secretary, Hong Kong's former number 2 official John Lee has gotten more than 4 times the minimum nominations needed. Now that's 53% of the endorsement, higher than the 48% incumbent Carrie Lam got back in 2017.
It is not easy because I have been working very hard to explain to various members what my election platforms will be like. I have to explain to the members. I think members agree with these 3 directions. That is why they have given me the nomination.
This is the first chief executive election after the electoral reform last year. It saw the election committee grow from 1,200 to 1,500 members, with the addition of a new sector, which comprises pro-Beijing Hong Kong representatives in China's lawmaking body and its advisory state agency. The reform, which comes on the back of the sweeping 2019 anti-government protests, it's largely seen as the mainland's growing concern with national security and foreign interference in Hong Kong's domestic politics.
And in the last 2 days, there was a massive flurry of activity because he visited 5 political parties as well as 5 organizations and held hour-long meetings with election committee members, many of whom, during the briefings that were posted online, were vocal about their support towards Mr. Lee. So it does signal one thing, that Mr. Lee does have the full endorsement of Beijing behind him.
Candidates need to get at least 750 votes from the election committee to secure the top job. With what Mr. Lee has already received at nomination, it's likely he will be a shoo-in.
The election committee has much less autonomy than it used to have. It's also true that the central government is concerned about security in Hong Kong. There's not much trust between the people of Hong Kong and the authorities. He's a police officer. We've never had this kind of candidate before. And the circumstances are unusual, as I said before. So we just have to see. If the central government becomes more comfortable with Hong Kong people participating more widely, then there could be more competition.
In fact, Professor Burns says he expected Mr. Lee to secure higher than a 53% count, given how homogeneous the views are under the Patriots-only system. But this also means Mr. Lee has his work cut out for him.
Basically, Mr. John Lee has already secured half of the nominations in the election committee. So in this politics of legitimization, he will have to do several things. Number one, he is going to listen to the opinions of the election committee members. Number 2, he is going to hammer out his concrete policy platforms. And number 3, he will project an image of presenting a kind of united front image to not only the election committee member, but also to all the people of Hong Kong. So he is going to have all these 3 major challenges.
Mr. Lee admitted he hasn't had time to finish his manifesto. His election platform will only be ready by the end of the month, 8 days away from the polls. During meetings with EC members, he did not address questions on specifics, like steps to solve housing crisis or the talent shortage. But Mr. Lee has committed to make Article 23, the anti-subversion bill in the city's basic law, a priority when he takes office. Against the backdrop of a calmer civil society now, this is by far the only policy the analysts agree will be passed smoothly. Deborah Wong, CNA, Hong Kong.